Hi, everyone. Nice to have you here. It's just a little after 12 Eastern time. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Rhodes College and the Paying for College 101 group. So thanks for joining in the middle of the day. I usually don't do these in the middle of the day, usually try and aim for the evening. I'm just gonna talk a little bit as I let some more people into the session. And actually love everybody if you could put in the chat kind of, honestly, most people here should have a senior because I think that's all we sent the invite out to. So just confirm that. I'm curious if there is anybody here who doesn't have a senior, but if you have a senior, tell me a little bit about what's going on. Like, where are you in the process? Has your child applied to anything early yet? Have you heard anything back? Are you still working on applications? I assume you are, not you, but your student, because you're here and you still need to figure out some colleges on your list. So just if anybody wants to share, I'd love to kind of hear where people are at, since it's November 18th and probably about 6 weeks left. Still working on applications. We applied, no response yet. My senior is working on it. I feel he's very behind and don't know how to push him. Yeah, that's a hard one. Oh, Veronica, congrats. My son has received 7 acceptances. So also, if anybody's willing to unmute and kind of share a little bit like Veronica, I'd love to know a little bit more about the 7 acceptances. Are you happy? Is your child happy with them? Love to hear a little bit more about that. Sue says, my daughter got 10 apps in early, though her father and I just submitted our CSS and iDocs yesterday. Okay, well, you got them in. So I'm actually kind of curious reading this. Let me just actually step back for a second. I did not have this planned that I was going to do this webinar. The reason why I scheduled it, and today is Thursday, we scheduled this on Monday. This is, this was, again, really not planned, is because I sent out, it's a long story, but I will cut to the chase. We are moving our email platforms. We were on one email platform called GetResponse. We're moving to something called HubSpot. And because of that, we needed to get people to recognize that we were sending them emails. And so we did a little giveaway to get people to open up the emails that we've been sending out. And part of that giveaway, we also just asked 3 questions just to get a pulse of what people, how people were feeling. Let me just show you guys this giveaway, because if you haven't entered it, you should. Here, let me share a screen. Okay, I'll give you the link for this in the chat. But oops, not there. Okay, so and so if you scroll down, we ask people, what stage of the process are you in? What keeps you up at night, right? And I got a lot of responses from families with 12th graders saying that they were still trying to figure out, merit, where to apply, where the students should apply for college and where they can get merit money. And I was getting nervous because this is kind of like, we're in the home stretch of applications. And if people are still struggling with that, I felt bad. So that's honestly the reason why I'm doing this today, is kind of for that last minute or last push for people to, do a little bit of research if they haven't already, and, to make sure that their college application list is as strong as possible, that they can get merit money. So I only say that because and there's always this language about merit scholarships. This is merit scholarships from colleges. This is money from colleges. This is not private scholarships. So for any of the people who said that, that their student is done with applications, or they're actually even hearing back, or if your student has no desire to do any more applications, you can stay, but this information may not be as valuable for you. This was really to help the people whose students are still putting colleges on their list and they're still willing to do applications, because I want to make sure you guys are doing the best research you can. And at the end of the day, the college list, I mean, there's a lot of talk about essays. They're important. A lot of talk about the Common App itself. That's important. But the college list, I think, is the most important, right? Because if you're not applying to the right schools, you're not going to get the money that you need. And that's the bottom line. And, you know, the big deadline is January 1st. And if your child hasn't applied to it, you can't get, as we say, you can't get money from a school you didn't apply to. So I'm trying to prevent all of those feelings and stories, you know, come the March timeframe where people say, oh, I wish my student had looked at that school, or I didn't realize this was going to be so expensive. I should have put other schools on the list. So that is the purpose of today. Is there anybody who's willing to volunteer and just be a co-host and let people in as I start the presentation? Anybody?
Elise, I can do it.
Okay, thanks, Elise. I'm going to make.
What do I need to do though? Because I haven't seen any notification come up.
You won't see it until I make you a co-host.
Okay.
So let me make you a co-host and then tell me, and then if you see the participants and you see admit.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Okay. So let me see, the other thing is, this is a presentation I give a lot. I'm going to cut it in half because A, it's the middle of the day. You know, people might have taken time away from work, and B, the first half of the presentation kind of just talks about the industry of college, you know, why colleges are giving out merit scholarships, the different types of merit scholarships, all important, but I'm cutting to the chase for you guys because I want you to just start researching, and, you know, hopefully, you know, that other stuff to some extent. It doesn't matter as much. You need to, you know, get going and make sure that your child has the strongest college list possible. So with that in mind, I am really just going to jump to a tool that we have, explain it in the information in there, explain it how people use it to find the schools, and then try and answer as many questions as we can. So let me share my screen. Okay, can people see? Thanks. Okay, so I do also want to kind of empower you guys that you can take control of the process, right? And taking control of the process is researching and understand how the system works. Whether we like it or not, there is an imbalance of information, right? Colleges have a lot of information about you and your student. A lot of you probably filled out the CSS profile and the EFC, right? They know everything about you. And here we are trying to dig to find out as much as we can about the colleges, and it's not easy. But what you can do is understand their philosophy about giving out money. And we can look at whatever numbers we can get our hands on. And that's kind of what we've done our best at, is to pull whatever data we can pull together to try and, you know, chip away at the black box about it's a little bit less about who's getting in. Because I think the problem these days is, the elite schools are always going to be, you know, a little bit of a lottery about who gets in at some level. But the question is, you know, where can your child get in and where can you afford to pay for it? And that's the numbers that we're trying to dig into. Okay. So yeah, let me just put up the questions in case. Okay. So as I said, you need to, how do you take control of the process? You need to understand the admissions and financial aid process, what colleges are giving out money, who's giving out money because they're only giving it to needs-based families, and who's giving out money because they're giving it to, they want to attract better students, and that's the merit scholarships. At this point, we're kind of at the end, towards the end of the deadline, but there still might be dates that you need to be aware of. So I will just throw it out. For example, University of Southern California, their merit scholarship deadline is December 1st. Their regular scholarship, their regular admissions deadline is January 1st. So even in this short time period left, there might be some schools that have different deadlines for merit scholarships. We don't have all of the deadline information. You have to dig through a college's website, or you have to have your child call the admissions office and say, are there different deadlines that I need to be aware of for merit scholarships? Yeah, you just have to be on top of that. The other thing that might happen, which we're starting to see, is as students are accepted, or once they apply, then the college writes back and says, here's an opportunity to apply for scholarships. And so some students kind of thought they were done with the process, but now that the colleges are communicating to them, they're saying, if you want to apply to an honors program or a special merit scholarship, you might have to fill out another application and do another essay. So all that means that you and your student need to be proactive with the college to find out how their merit scholarship process works. If they have different deadlines, if they have a different application, if they have a different essay, and be on top of your student, because a lot of this information is going to go to them. It could be going to their whatever email address they use to start communicate with the college, or if they've actually have a portal, it could be going to that portal. So we hope that our kids are on top of things, but we know that a lot of things fall through the cracks. So this is okay, where you're just gonna have to be a nudge and constantly and obviously explain to your children why this is so important, that they need to be on top of their emails. Okay, so I am going to walk you through College Insights, which is a tool that I put together for my own. Well, it started a few years ago for my own personal purposes, and then I knew that people can use it. So College Insights pulls data together from lots of different sources. The three main sources are the government itself, a source called IPEDS, which is public information. That is what is behind. There's a website called College Navigator, which is the government's website about searching colleges. So it's just a lot of data. Anybody in theory can download these files, but it's just a little cumbersome. But we pull that data, and then we actually license all of the common data set information. So I'm not going to go into detail about what common data set is. I'm hoping at this point you might know, but if not, just let me just say it's an important source of information that colleges put out, and it's in a common format. And there's a lot of good data in there. The hard part is that colleges share it individually. So there's no place to kind of pull it all together and do some analysis on it and do some reverse lookups. But that's what we did. So we combined the common data set, we combined it with the government data, and then the third piece of information that we have, and you might be seeing this because we're starting to ask people, is we have crowdsourced information. So we have actual offers that people gave us from the past we share 2 years of information.
These are all over the place.
So you can see by college, and we don't have it on every college, but wherever people have crowdsourced and given and shared their information in the past, you can pull up and see, we don't have the actual offer itself, but we have the details of the offer. So you can pull up, and I'm going to show you all this, you can pull up by EFC range, what students were accepted to those colleges, what the stats of those students were, how much money they got, and whether they applied early decision, early action, or rolling. So, so we have these three sources of information. People find it very helpful. And I guess what you might be seeing is we're starting to ask your students' class to start to share their information. And I'll explain at the end, but that's actually, there's another tool that you can use to share that, and you'll get information in that tool. It's called Compare College Offers. But that information feeds into College Insights. Okay. I explained all this, and okay, let me get to, this is, you could call it my philosophy, you could call it, there are other people that might have a similar philosophy. I'm not saying that this is unique, but this is how I encourage people to think about the college search process. So I hope that people know their EFC. I wish I could see everybody's face, but just, can somebody raise your hand, put it in the chat? do you guys at this point know what your EFC is? Not just do you know what EFC stands for? Have you calculated your EFC? Whether you did it because you filled out the FAFSA. Oh, thank you, Shauna. I do see the thumbs up and the waves. Yes. Either you've filled out your FAFSA, great, or if you haven't yet, you should, but if you don't want to yet, there are tools where you can estimate your EFC. Okay, great, good starting point. If you know your EFC, I'm just kind of curious, and anybody can unmute themselves. Why am I focused on EFC? What is it that people should be using their EFC for in this college search? Anybody want to share their thoughts, unmute
Debbie,
themselves?
can you repeat the question?
The question is, now, if you know your EFC, how should you use it in the college search process? And how have you used it in the college search process? Or maybe you haven't. Okay, Christina said, you want to use your EFC to know if you might qualify for need-based scholarships. Bingo, yes, okay. And the reverse. If you want to know if you're not going to qualify for need-based scholarships, right? That means you need to search for merit scholarships. So that EFC kind of tells you which side of the line you're on. Do I need need-based? Do I need merit? And you know what? It might vary from college to college. It's not like a set, mark. So at some schools with your EFC, you actually might qualify for some need-based aid. At other schools, that same EFC won't get you any needs-based aid, and you're going to need to look for merit scholarships. Most times, I mean, if you have a low EFC, and I'm going to generalize, maybe like in the 20,000 or less, most places you would qualify for need-based aid if they offer it. It's that EFC that's probably in the 30 to 50 range that at some places you'll get needs-based aid or qualify for it, in some places you won't. And here's the way you determine it, right? So you take your EFC, you look at what the costs of attendance at the colleges, which we have that information in College Insights, and is your EFC less than the cost of attendance? If it's less, you have the potential, because now you have that difference is your financial need. If you have financial need at that school, then you have the opportunity to be eligible for need-based aid. Then the next step is to say, does that school even offer need-based aid? And how much need-based aid do they offer? So that's the multi-step process. If you are looking at schools and your EFC is above the cost of attendance, well, you have no need according to the college. So you will not be eligible for any need-based aid, even if they give it. And so then you want to say, does that school offer merit scholarships? Because that's the way I'm going to get money from that school. Okay, does that make sense to people? I'm just looking if there's questions before we move on. So Debbie's saying, so if my EFC indicates I won't qualify for need-based aid, should I even bother submitting the CSS profile? It's a good question. It depends how close your EFC is to the cost of attendance. I only say that because, maybe the way you've because the EFC that we're looking at is the way the government calculates it. The way the colleges with CSS profiles calculated is slightly different. So if you're close, I'm making up the numbers. If your EFC is 65,000 and you're looking at a school that's like 72,000, I would fill out the CSS profile, because maybe your calculation is wrong and maybe there's some fudge factor. If your EFC came out to be, 80,000, 90,000, forget it. I mean, personally, you're not going to get anything. There's no need to put yourself through the stress of doing the CSS profile. But also know, if your student is looking at those schools that are accepting the CSS profile and your EFC is above the cost of attendance, I'm not saying every school, but the majority of those types of schools are not going to give you merit scholarships. So then you better be prepared to pay the full sticker price if you agree to let your child go there. Okay, so I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I'm glad that people know their EFC. We'll use it when we do some sample searches. So in addition to EFC, right, you should know your family budget. Your EFC might come out to be 35,000, and we all know that these numbers are unrealistic. It doesn't matter for some families what the EFC is. You can't afford it. So if your EFC might be 35,000, but there's no way you can only afford 25,000. Well, you need to use the EFC to figure out if you'll potentially get need-based aid, but that's the number you need to kind of use in your search. So you want to find schools where either the cost of attendance is close to the 25,000, or after your student might get need-based aid or merit aid, it's going to bring you back down to 25,000. So I'm just giving you examples, but know your EFC, figure out, what your budget is. And I'm sorry, I am kind of like really like jumping hoops. We could do a whole session on figuring out what your budget is. That's not today. So I'm assuming you can figure that out, or you can come to some, number, but you should know those two figures. Okay, and then the third question, which we're starting to answer, those two pieces of information were actually really your EFC is really helping. Am I searching for need-based aid? Am I searching for merit scholarships? Okay, and then at this point in the search, you might feel like, well, my student only wants to go to this particular, they only want to be in schools in, in California, and you're from the East Coast, or they're very kind of particular, and they might have a specialty major, and I get it, but I would, if you've never used the tool before, I would kind of put away as many of those filters that you can, and just kind of start with a wide net at the top of this search, because there might be a college that you uncover that, it's in Ohio, and my kid didn't want to go to Ohio, but okay, let's look at it because it does have their major, and from a money standpoint, it's gonna work out financially better. So I'm just kind of saying, try and put aside as many of these filters as you can, and try and look at this a little bit more wide open from the top, and kind of say, what's going to determine whether you get money from a merit standpoint is your students' GPA and the test scores if they have it. And we'll talk about test optional. If you're creating a college list, for your student to apply to, my opinion, just always include your state school. In most cases, your state school is probably one of the better financial options that you're going to have, or it is at least the dollar amount to kind of compare against. If your student doesn't have that many, if all the offers that your student have is above the state school, then you need to decide, I'm going to compare the quality of these other schools, and am I willing to pay more than my state school for certain reasons? If you can get below your state, school, that's great. But just as a safety, plan B or plan C, just have it on the list that your student applied and that they got in. From a I hate the word, colleges don't like the word, but we're just going to say it. From a negotiation standpoint, it's good to have what people call a leverage school. So this is on your child's college list. So a leverage school is that school that might be similar in selectivity to another school that your student is more interested in. But it has a history of giving more merit money, because even if your student may not want to go there, it might be worth putting it on the list. And of course, you got to weigh if they've got a lot of other extra essays or not. Of course, the ideal would be to find a school that's similar to the top school your child wants to go to, but it doesn't have any extra work, and they can just put it on their Common App list, because what if they get into that school and they get a good scholarship offer? You could then use that for the other school that your student is interested in when it comes time in that March, April timeframe, when we're talking about how you appeal your offers. You can use that leverage school in the appeal process. You can only use it if your student applies to it and they get an offer, but that's why you should put it on the list now. Okay, so let's skip over to looking at college insights. Any question? Well, you know what, I'll look at the questions later. I just want to get through this because we only have an hour. Okay, let me share. Okay, can you guys see the screen now? Thumbs up. Am I sharing college insights?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Let me just reset. This might actually bump me out. Let me actually log in just to make this clean. Okay. It's not bumping me out, but if nobody's ever used this before, when you come to the main screen, it just asks you a few questions. It asks if you're a parent, student, or professional. It asks you what grade your student is in, and then it asks you your email, and then you get to select 5 colleges as like a test run. And then you see all the information for those 5 colleges. And then you can decide whether or not you want to upgrade, where there is a monthly fee where you can see everything. So if you've never used it before, you'll go through that process. But assuming you've gotten this far, let me get all the schools listed here. Okay, so this is a database of combining all of that data that I talked about before. We through research with the parents last year, we have certain categories of information. And I'll go quickly through the pieces of information that I think are important that people should be looking at. But there is a section on the school profile on race and ethnicity. There is academic stats. This is your average GPA, the SAT average, and ACT, and 75th percentile. This is the admission stats from previous admission seasons. This is the deadlines. We basically have deadlines for early decision, early action, early decision 2, and regular decision, and the financial aid deadline. Let me just harp on that. Well, if your child applied early, hopefully you knew that there was most likely a deadline for financial aid that went along with the early deadline or early decision or early action. But in general, I would know the financial aid deadline. Even for regular decision, it's usually not January 1st, but it might be in January, and you don't want to miss that. Okay, then we have a section on need-based aid, merit scholarship costs, and debt levels. So they're looking at how much debt students at these particular schools are taking on. So, and then there's a few different ways you can search. You can create your own lists so that for the person who's trying this out for the first time, those first 5 schools that you create, we put it in here, and it turns out it's listed as your a trial college list. So, but as you search, you can create any types of lists that you want. You can name them whenever you want. You can come back and look at them later. Okay, that's one way to search. A second way to search is if you maybe, which I imagine a lot of people do at this point, you already have a list of schools that your student is applying to or has applied to. You can go in here and select each school and individually, and again, make a list of it, but you can see information on any particular schools by just going to the section. Okay, and then the last section is search by preferences. And as you can see, we don't have that many preferences. And that goes back to my comment about try and put away as much as you can, in this search process, and try and start kind of open-minded. And we just picked what we thought were the most important things to filter by, obviously major, maybe location, but I try to, again, on some, to try and put that aside a little bit, like don't narrow yourself too much by location at first. Let's just see what schools are out there. And then maybe you want to narrow further down by a state, by a region, which you can. And then the same thing about a school size. I would just be open-minded to see what's out there without narrowing down on school size yet. And then lastly, the academics. So you can search by SAT, ACT, and unweighted GPA. So let me talk a little bit about and I know, and you can share in the comments, I don't know how many people's kids have taken the SATs or ACTs, if they want to use them. Of course, a lot of schools are test optional these days, but here's the issue. There's a few issues about when you're searching. One is we really still don't know enough about whether even a test optional school, I mean, of course, they're test optional, they're allowing kids to apply who don't have tests, but we don't really know enough about if they're truly not using the test scores of the kids who do apply, and if the kids are getting any sort of preference, because that's another piece of information in the puzzle. I mean, we just don't know. So I'm not saying at this point your child can't take a test if they haven't already, but you know, that's really maybe more a speech for parents of 10th and 11th graders, that they should at least have a test score if they want to use it. The second thing from a search standpoint is, and I'll show you, the data we have, right, it's only as good as what the colleges have given us. We've pulled the data from the government, which again, the main source of that government data comes directly from the colleges. We've pulled the data from the common data set, that's self-reported information from the colleges. When you look at GPA information that colleges have reported, it's just not as robust. That for whatever reason, maybe because they're, you know, in the past, a lot of schools weren't test optional, and so they relied more on sharing test score information. There just is not as good data on GPA across all the colleges. In fact, there was a thread the other day that somebody had looked up, you know, some pretty well-known colleges, and I'd actually looked them up myself, because I think sometimes, because we're licensing this data, maybe there was a mistake in the data, you know, like I can't remember it exactly. It was definitely several of the IBs. Maybe one was Dartmouth, maybe one was Brown, and we didn't have GPA information on that. I thought, oh, well, that seems so strange. They usually, those schools are so like willing to share that information. And I went and I pulled up the common data set for those schools, and the schools didn't share GPA information. So it's very frustrating. Like, you know, there's this focus now on GPA, but we don't have enough information to really, you know, use it the way we want to use it. So I say all that if your child has a test score, or sorry, if he doesn't have a test score, which is fine, then you can use the GPA and at least convert it to what a range of a test score might be. And I forgot to pull it up, but if you do like a GPA to SAT conversion tables, these guys at Prep Scholar, they have a good table, and you can at least take your child's GPA and create like a range of what their SAT might have been. And these guys have the same thing for an ACT table. Here, I'll just put this in the chat. So I would use that for searching purposes. Okay, let's see, we can find the same thing, GPA to ACT table. Oops. Yep, yeah, these guys have the same one. So thank you, Prep Scholar. And let's put this in here for everybody else. Okay. So let me switch back. So that's the different ways you can, you know, filter. And let's just put in, I'm just going to make up, let's see if anybody shared any information. I'm just going to make up a sample student. and we'll do some searching, and I'll show you how I would use the tool. So I'm just going to pick somebody, let's say, who did have their ACTs, that they get a 30. So I'm going to pick a range between 28 and 30. Just for the purpose of this search, I'm going to say they are so open-minded. They will go to any school in any location. They will go to any size school. Let's just see what comes up, right? So I'm going to look at this range of 28 to 30 ACT, but I want to search and I want the tool to show me the colleges where that ACT is in the 75th percentile or higher. And so the reason why we're doing that is most colleges that are offering merit scholarships are giving it to attract that top student for their school. So they're giving merit, and they're giving out money to the student who's going to be at the top range. That's the 75th percentile or higher. So that's why it's important to use that search feature. You could reuse the average. The average is fine, you know, if you want to kind of broaden the search and look to see where your students' test scores meet the average. And that really is going to tell you more that they have a strong likelihood of being accepted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they may get money. Okay. So we searched. Okay, and we probably have a lot of schools here because we didn't really filter that much. So if I'm focused on merit scholarships, right, I'm going to jump to the merit scholarship tab, and I'll explain to you what these columns mean. So the first column says freshmen without need. So that's saying how many students at this school attend the school and have no financial need. So remember, we went back to that conversation about your EFC and whether it's below or above the cost of attendance. So everybody who has an EFC that's below the cost of attendance at a particular school has financial need, right? Everybody above doesn't. So what percent? So what they're saying is that in Agnes Scott, this example, 22% of the students that are attending have an EFC, quite honestly, that's above the cost of attendance at Agnes Scott. Let's, for the fun of it, let's jump and see the cost of attendance for Agnes Scott. So I just jump over to the cost column and, oh, here it is, sorry. So the cost of attendance at Agnes Scott is about $57,000. So that's saying 22% of the students that go to Agnes Scott had an EFC that was above $57,000. You know, you're not going to make a decision whether your child applies there or not based on it, but it kind of starts to give you a sense of the demographic, the economic demographic of that the students there. So Agnes Scott is very generous, right? And the next column says, what percentage of the freshmen who didn't have a financial need actually got merit money? So Agnes Scott gives 95% of those 22% of the students. They also basically almost everybody without financial need is getting money from Agnes Scott. They're getting a merit scholarship. And what the average amount is $32,000. So Agnes Scott has realized, and if you guys have read, you know, Jeff Salingo's book, Buyers and Sellers, that they are a buyer. They need to some extent, put out money, discount their tuition to attract students. And they're hoping that obviously the students that are at the higher academic range are going to be, or would consider this. So this next column that says merit scholarship categories offered, this is just a time saver. If you click here, it will bring you to the page on Agnes Scott's website that gives you the details about their merit scholarships. So they might have those details that we talked about earlier, like, you know, maybe they review all the applications to be potential to get merit scholarships, or maybe there is a deadline, or there might be a separate application, or they might be one of those schools that has a chart that shows you in detail that, if you've got this GPA and this SAT score, you're automatically going to get merit money. So this link just brings you to whatever information we could find on the college's website about merit scholarships. The next tab is the crowdsourced information. This is the information we asked last year's families to share, and the families before that to share and tell us how much money did they actually get. And so this just tells you oops, what happened? All right, I lost Agnes Scott. I must have pressed something. I don't know what I pressed. This tells you the number of offers that we have crowdsourced. But let's skip to Embry-Riddle because we have a lot. So if you click here, this shows you now last year and the year before that, how many people and the details of what they shared with us. So now going back to your EFC, right? If you go to your EFC range, you'll get a sense of what students in that EFC range actually got from Agnes, well, in this case, Embry-Riddle, and how did that compare to what they said that they were going to offer? So let's just skip. So there were a lot of families with an EFC of 50,000 and above that got money from Embry, and you can see what state they were from. You can see what their GPA. If we don't have an SAT or ACT score, it means that student didn't apply with one, so they obviously applied test optional. I'm not sure you can actually make like concrete decisions off of this, but it's interesting. We are kind of trying to get a bigger data set of information in general, and then we might be able to make more statistical recommendations to people. But where we are right now is, you can kind of view these offers and you do see a pattern, right? You probably do see some pattern. It might be if we looked at, Embry-Riddle is trying to get students from certain states, or they're giving more if you're further away, or, if you maybe have a certain GPA, they're giving a higher dollar amount. So this is, just interesting information to look at. And then we also have a column that for those schools, not a ton, but if we know that school does offer a full tuition scholarship or a full ride scholarship, then we have the link to that information. So, so that's kind of, how one way I would use this data. You can also look, then you can start looking at other things that might be important to you. You could start narrowing this down by state, right? And you could go back to the preferences section and put in the state, and that would narrow this list down. And then you could look at, okay, which states, which schools now within, and we'll do it. Let's pick the Northeast region, New England region we'll pick, and then the Mideast. Okay, and so let's search. So now we've narrowed it down, and now let's see, let's go back to that merit scholarship, and let's sort this. You could sort this to say, how about I'm just most interested to see which college gives out the most average merit scholarship amounts. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so Susquehanna University, and I've been seeing them, people have been getting offers from them, gives out for students who have a 28 to 30, who want to stay in the New England and the Mideast area. Susquehanna gives out the highest average merit scholarship award. They're giving it to a lot of the students who don't have needs. So 98% of the students who apply to Susquehanna and have an EFC that's below the cost of attendance, have an EFC that's above the cost of attendance, are getting money from Susquehanna. And you can see that most of the students who applied to Susquehanna actually do have financial needs. So really only 19% of the students are in this category where Susquehanna can try and lure them with some sort of merit scholarship. But that's the way I would start to kind of filter these columns. You could, and honestly, I would just start scrolling down this list, maybe peeking into the merit scholarship, the actual merit scholarship information we have. This is where I would, obviously use your EFC and say, well, the cost of attendance at Susquehanna is about $67,000. My EFC is 30,000, right? So I do have financial need. Let's see. And they obviously have a pretty high tuition. So that's why only 19% of the students who are going there actually have an EFC of greater than 67,000. But so let's see how good Susquehanna is with need-based aid, right? And they're okay. They actually are saying that they meet 86% of somebody's financial need. So, if you might have that 30,000 EFC, you would have financial need at Susquehanna. They're claiming that they would meet 86% of it. So it might, then you run the numbers, you see kind of where that brings you down to. It's still going to be above your EFC because they're not meeting 100% of the financial need. So then how does that number compare to your budget? So that's how, you start using all of the information and the numbers that you have. I would, at this point, like Susquehanna, I would look at their merit scholarship page and see what the process is. Scholarships we offer. These are all the different scholarships, and see, what the if my child needs to fill out an additional application or anything like that. But now you kind of have all the information at your fingertips, and you can decide, Susquehanna is a school I'm going to save. I'm going to make a new list. I'm going to say, schools in New England. England with merit. And now I can go back to it. So, that's the way I would keep narrowing this down. Now, does your child have a major that is a specific major that you think, you need to, find that, it's not, you need to find that school that only gives that major. But it could be engineering, right? So engineering isn't at every school. So let's put in engineering now. There we have a general engineering. I mean, if you know the specific engineering, that's great. But here's general engineering. Okay, so now let's narrow again. So now you could see that it's a smaller list. These are the schools in the region that we looked at with that where 28 to 30 on the ACT is going to be in the top percentile of that school. And they also offer, just general engineering. Again, now I would start digging in. What is, I can resort this list. No, it's actually still in order. So Clarkson University seems to give the most merit scholarship to students. Now you know that they have engineering. They have 22% of their students who don't get financial need. Let's go look at that cost. It's a pretty expensive school. It's $71,000. So that makes sense that only 22% of the students actually have an EFC that's greater than 71%. So let's say I've got that 30,000 EFC. Do they potentially also offer need-based aid? Yeah, they do. They offer, they meet 89% of need. If you apply to a school like Clarkson and your student is in the 75th percentile and you have financial need, it'd be interesting to see what type of offer you get. You might get some need-based aid and you might get some merit aid. So it would be interesting. I can't really give you with certainty what the outcome would be, but that is a strong possibility. So this is a school that actually, might cover you on both sides. Likely, you're not going to get lower than your EFC unless your student, gets like some and the college is offering some amazing, scholarship, a full ride, full tuition, that type of stuff. But to get close to your EFC in this day and age, unfortunately, is still worthwhile. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Some people, if it is pure merit, some families will get below their EFC. In fact, I was looking at this the other day, actually just yesterday. Let's look at, oh, it may not show it here, but let's look. Because I've been getting a lot of offers in the Compare College offer tool that we have from the University of Arizona. So let's go there. I just want to show you this. So, okay, University of Arizona. And here's some other information, of course, that should be useful and helpful depending on what your interests are. We show obviously the number of undergrads, the University of Arizona, big school. What's the breakdown between male versus female? What the size of the class is by looking at student faculty ratio, what the sophomore retention rate is, which is important to look at because I think the average is about 82%. But so if it's below that, you're going to want to, doesn't mean it's a bad school, but you just want to know why aren't students returning. Might be a good reason. It would be kind of a little bit of a flag for me that I would want to ask the college and the admissions officers a little bit more information about that. The 4-year graduation rate is really important. This is not a great one, 49%. There must be something going on at University of Arizona, maybe, and I don't know, maybe they've got a lot of 5-year programs. That's why the 4-year graduation rate doesn't look good. Maybe they're having issues of students not being able to get all of the classes that they need in time for graduating for 4 years. That was an issue in a lot of the UC schools, but the 4-year graduation rate, that's a little sign to me. I would dig in more about that because everything we're talking about, right? The cost, the merit scholarships, it's based on your student graduating in 4 years. They end up graduating in 5 years, whew, they have blown the budget. And because that 5th year, you're not going to get merit scholarships for, you're going to be paying it full price. That really starts to make college it's already expensive, and that makes it even more expensive. Okay, but so let me show you what I had seen in some other data. We have a lot of information about University of Arizona, right? So what I noticed was that there were a lot of families with high EFCs whose students were applying, and they were getting pretty generous scholarship amounts. Oh, before I look here, let's look at the cost of attending. So out of state, and a lot of these were out of state families. Out of state, let's say it's $48,000. So let's look at these offers, and these are from last year. So, but we're just going to take a quick, make some assumptions. So here's a family, right, who has an EFC of 55 to 60,000. They're above, obviously, the cost of attendance. So their student just got merit scholarships. They got a $35,000 merit scholarship. And that's kind of the range that I was seeing in some of the new data that was coming through, like between 30 to 35,000. And it is based on your student's GPA. And this student has a good GPA. But so this family now that has a 55 to 60,000 EFC, right? Their students getting a $35,000 merit scholarship. The cost of attendance is $47,000. This family is sending their student to University of Arizona for $17,000 a year. I think that's great. They figured it out, right? They figured out where their student could get good money, good school, and it obviously met whatever other requirements they have. And they're going to be able to send their student to school for 4 years for less than probably about $80,000 when you throw in, travel and that type of stuff. Okay, so that I thought I hadn't really dug in myself to University of Arizona like that, but that's why it's so popular, right? So hopefully, this gives you a little bit more information if you, can spend probably an hour or two kind of fooling around with College Insights if you still are looking for those schools where your student can get more merit scholarships. And then you have to look at, from the application standpoint, is it more essays that they need to write? Hopefully not, we don't know, but you still have a good 6 weeks before January 1st. Some schools have slightly past January 1st, but I would just, that's the deadline you want to go for, and you can still make an impact. So let me just see what questions we have here, if we can answer anything quickly before we finish up. But let me, so collegeinsights.roadtocollege.com is the link. As I said, you can go there, you can put in 5 free schools, see what it's like. If you want to do all the searching that I talked about, you need to upgrade. It's $24.99 for the month, but you guys only have a month left. So, I mean, there really would be no purpose for you to use this past January. So it might be worth just giving it a shot and getting all the data. Okay, so let's see what questions we have. And I want to be mindful of people's times. It's in the middle of the day. Not sure if you said there was a filter for which schools accept the Common App for comparison. Oh, no, I don't have that. Susan is asking, is there something on here that indicates which schools accept the Common App, or I'm guessing you're asking the coalition, or about their essays. This year, I don't have information about essays. Next year, we're going to do an integration with Prompt. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Prompt. I do a lot of stuff with them, and they collect a lot of information about essays, obviously. And so we're going to integrate with them. And so then you'll be able to look here and see which schools and how many essays they have, but I don't have it this year. Okay. So Cindy's asking, all of the EFCs shown have been 20,000 or above. What if yours is below? Is it safe to assume your child will get need-based aid? And if they get need-based aid, will they be eligible for merit-based aid, an amazing GPA, and second in his class? So if you have that low EFC, there are, and your student, I mean, it has those great stats, which congratulations to them. You are in the category of, your students should be looking at those selective schools because they are really generous for low EFC, low income families with students who have, great stats. So if your student can get into one of those really selective schools, and they're, any of the, all the Ivies, all the near Ivies, whatever names you want to call them, those are the schools that give 100% of, they meet 100% of need. Then if you, whatever your need is defined by, the difference between the cost of attendance and your EFC will be 100% covered. So you'll only be responsible for your EFC. So that's an amazing deal. So those are the types of schools, Cindy, that your students should be looking at. Okay, I think I answered that 1%. Oh, what percent is a good graduation rate for a 4-year? Actually, I don't have the national statistic of what the 4-year graduation is for a school. Like, I mean, what the national average is. I don't know why in my head I'm thinking it might be, it's not that great. I think a 4-year graduation rate of anything, probably 80% and above is what you want to go for, because you want to make sure that the school is doing everything that they can to graduate your student. The thing, and again, the thing that might impact the 4-year graduation rate is if you look at schools like Drexel and Northeastern, and, to be clear, honest, my daughter goes to Northeastern. They have low 4-year graduation rates because they have these co-op programs. So, and my daughter is in her 5th year, but I'm not paying 5 years. It's just that it's the 4 years spread over 5 years. So that's why those types of schools particularly have not so good, 4-year graduation rates. So again, look at the 4-year graduation rate. I'll see if I can dig up the actual averages and send it in the follow-up email. But if anything is alarming to you, definitely ask questions. Just looking to see what, if there are other quick questions I can answer.
Hey, Deb, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
So if you have questions about the CCS profile form and completing that, whom would be the best people to reach out to for questions?
I mean, if you have like little like one-off questions, I mean, you can send them to me, and you know, we have a financial planner that we work with. If you're like completely lost, you might want, you know, and again, the financial planner that we work with, you set up time with her, which she has done, and she walks it through it with you to fill it out. You can also call the school directly. You know, if you've got questions, you can call the college board, not as helpful, but those are like different possibilities. You could ask the question, which a lot of people do, in the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. If so it depends kind of on like the level of the question and what, you know, and how detailed it is.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I see here somebody said about the GPAs here are unweighted. So that's the way most colleges report it, and that's the way you should calculate it. But that's actually another question to ask of a college. And again, kind of doing my research with Arizona, they were very specific, and they basically are taking core classes to calculate the GPA, and they're only taking it from freshman through junior year of high school. So and that this varies also a little bit college by college. I would ask them, you know, what is their calculation for the GPA that they're calculating? Because what has happened, and this happened last year, is that a family and a student thought that they were going to get a certain merit scholarship level because the college actually had a grid, and they thought that they kind of were right there at the top. And it turns out that the college recalculated their GPA, and that with under their new calculated GPA, the student was just at the top of the second tier, so they didn't get the money that they expected. They actually appealed. They finally did get the money, but that's just something maybe you can avoid early on by knowing, you know, how the school's really doing their GPA calculation. So I will look through these questions and see if I can kind of answer some of them and put them in a follow-up email. I was really trying to keep this to an hour today because it's in the middle of the day. So thank you guys for coming. Hopefully that this was helpful. You still have time to make an impact. You should at least, you know, review. Even if your child applied and you never looked at this information, you know, look at it so that you have an idea of, you know, of what your final cost might be. You know, I personally don't like, there have been some companies and websites that have tried to calculate with precision, you know, what they think your cost is going to be at a college. And, you know, they're doing a lot of algorithms. I don't like to go in that direction because you're always going to be wrong. I mean, you can't, you know, you just with so much uncertainty about how colleges and manage their process and how the process varies from college to college, you just can't get to that level of precision that I can tell you exactly it's going to cost you. I would rather guide you to the group of schools that you have a good chance of getting merit scholarships, and you have a good chance of getting a cost that's affordable to you. But I'm not going to predict what your actual cost is. But you guys can get a sense of what the cost will be, because if you're, you know, you can look and say, okay, here's the cost of attendance. I know I'm going to get I'm not eligible for need-based aid. If my child, you know, is at the top range, and this is the average, if this is the average merit scholarship that this school is offering, okay, well, now I can estimate that I'm going to take that merit scholarship and subtract it from the cost of attendance, and that should be close to what you do end up offering. Not going to be precise, but it should be a close estimate of what that school should cost you. Okay, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Maybe you could do this weekend and then put it aside and then relax the week before Thanksgiving. But hopefully you got a little bit more information to finish out this process. Well, at least this phase of the process. There's a few more phases, but finish out this phase of the application process before January 1st. Reach out with any questions, and best of luck. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.